podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by thebatmanuniverse.net. Here, we love talking about everything Batman. The BatmanUniverse.net has news, original content, and reviews about Batman comics, movies, TV shows, video games, and more. Check out the BatmanUniverse.net and join our Discord server to start chatting with fellow fans. We can't wait to talk to you guys. Also, visit our Patreon page and join our other awesome supporters. But enough of this nonsense. On with the show.
Hey, Bat fans, you're listening to the Batman Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Scott, and today we have a very special episode. Joining me is Pitof, a visual effects maestro and imaginative film director who has found success in both French and American cinema. Among his list of accomplishments, which include work on Delicatessen, Alien Resurrection, and Vidocq, which he directed, Pitof also helmed the subject of today's episode, 2004's Catwoman with Halle Berry. Thanks for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very well. And yourself?
Not too bad. Everything's going good. It's a nice Friday as we're recording this. So everything's heading into a long weekend.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about this because I feel like this is a film that doesn't get a lot of coverage, and it is the 20-year anniversary. So it's nice to look back and reflect. And, since that time, we've had kind of an explosion of superhero films that dominate a lot of the mainstream film market. And it's easy to forget some of the movies that got us here. And again, it's hard to imagine Catwoman is 20 years old, but leaping right into it, what would you say was the critical response to Catwoman 20 years ago, and what is it today? How has that changed and evolved?
Yeah, 20 years passed, and the whole world have changed. When Catwoman was released, it was kind of an unexpected type of release, and I would say it's a little bit ahead of its time for many reasons. First, in the comic universe world, Catwoman was the very first try to be like a spin-off, a real spin-off with female, black, and all that. That was pretty bold at the time. And the movie, people were not, especially the fan base of DC Comics was not ready for that. And the biggest critic was, okay, we don't want to see Catwoman without Batman. They're really, really craving for Catwoman with Batman in Gotham City, hitting all the codes that they got used to it. And that was, the major rejection of the movie by this crowd. Where now, 20 years later, the world has really significantly changed. Now, a woman superhero and black is really welcome, and also the world of comic book, have been really shifted. Now people are used to have like a merging, universe, like a Deadpool, the last Deadpool with
Ryan Reynolds.
Completely was to me unthinkable. If you have brought this movie in 2004 or 5, I guess this movie would have been killed because back then the purist guys you don't want to see these two worlds connected together. So we're now, the movie Catwoman is seen for what it is: a fun, uplifting, beautiful superhero woman in a world that is to be discovered. So and the new. A generation of moviegoers see the movie for what it is and enjoy it, and I'm completely blown away to see the rating. So when the movie was released, it was really low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and the people who put the rating, it was 100 people who judged the movie. Where now on Prime, the movie is rated 4.5 over 5. And by more than 4,000 people, more than 4,500 people. So it really showed, and the critics are different. People say, Catwoman changed my life. It woke some energy to me, some face and everything. So the movie does finally the thing it's supposed to be. It's a movie for people. It's not a complicated story. It's not an Oscar, nominated movie. It's not the virtue of the movie. The movie is to entertain with, a deep subject, but seen with the eye of a cat, of a fun cat.
It's a good way to put it. And it's actually, there's a couple things there I want to pick apart, but the one thing I wanted to hone in first is you're not the first person I've interviewed on this podcast that has mentioned the different shift in, how people perceive comic book movies 20 years ago, 30 years ago, even versus now. We had the Batman producer on, Michael Uslan, a little over a year now ago, but he said something of the same mind, this idea of these multiverse movies and having these different universes. It was just he felt people couldn't wrap their minds around it, decades ago, but now all that's changed and people can accept all these different incarnations and have competing characters wearing the same name, whether it's Batman or Catwoman or whatever, and appreciate those, for what they are outside of that one linear, look.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, something I want to hit on too with this newfound audience that's finding it, or how people are, changing how they're viewing it and the difference in ratings. Do you feel like there's themes or ideas that maybe were overlooked 20 years ago that people are talking about, now? Maybe it's just something that wasn't in the consciousness then, and now it's maybe more prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, yes, so things like diversity. I mean, in a 2004 years, diversity was not a topic. So nobody talks about diversity, and I think what is it's openness. I mean, it's today people are way more open, and we are more into like, living the moments. I mean, we are happy to enjoy the moments without thinking too much, without putting too much thought about everything. That's how the acceptance is bigger. That's how like you said, and I said I'm not the only one. That the people can really easily merge something. And also, what I think is fascinating in the comic book world is it's really just pure inspiration. I mean, I grew up with comic book. I grew up, of course, with Superman and all these guys, and I'm French, so we had our series of comic book like Tintin, like Spielberg did a version of Tintin years ago, and as a kid, the whole comic book is really a thing that is supposedly open your mind. It's really because it's drawing. First, it's very dynamic, even though it's drawings. What comes to my mind when I think comic books is dynamic. It's very because all the drawings and how the image, the color is to draw you into the story, and the story is flying through the pages. So it's very dynamic, and it's so when you love this world and this world because it's very a lot of variation. It's supposed to help you to get into different worlds. And I think the very big difference is back then and early on, people were kind of stuck in their world, stuck in Batman. People were fan of Batman, didn't like Superman, but was a Batman guy. And this guy was a Superman guy and all that. And didn't really want to merge these two worlds. Where now, I think it's really maybe the social media and everything, the way now everything is mixed, we are much more open to mix things together and to take a piece of that, mixing it with a piece of that, and be happy with new construct, new thing we build from other things. I think that's a very big difference between these last 20 years, where back then in 2004, there was no social media. I mean, it's Facebook was not there yet. It was social media was MySpace. It was MySpace, and that was it. So it was the very beginning of that thing, and and people were not that open. Of course, it has the flip side of too much openness. But I'm really happy with where we're going now. Even it's can be a little crazy, but the whole thing with opening things and taking things in consideration, minority, it's very good for
And definitely, and that makes sense too with like social media, how it was then and now in terms of everyone can share things. And you're also getting all these different viewpoints that you wouldn't have had before. Kind of going back to your comment about like critical reception earlier. But something I also wanted to hit on too, and we'll get into the style and like the filmmaking of it a little bit more later, but up front, I did rewatch the film, and something I noticed as I was rewatching, there's a lot of movement and very fast movement throughout the film. A lot of quick cuts, the cameras, there's almost like a constant sense of perpetual motion, and it's something I feel like, maybe that style was a little bit ahead of its time, and there's a possibility that maybe the world had to catch up a little bit because it is, in some scenes it is very fast, but it fits, I think, what you're trying to go for in terms of that movement and momentum.
Yeah, exactly. What I said, to me, comic book is motion, and that my thing was to really have things keep rolling, the ball rolling, the attention taken every second, and to really focus on one thing and go through different shot, different movements, so you really focus on the thing. To me, it was really the straight translation of what I feel when I read a comic book. To be into it, so you don't have, if you want to be into it, you don't have time to think. It's always something catching your eyes, the sound, to be really into this world and to be immersed. So to me, what is what the virtue of a movie is immersion.
Mhm.
I want to be immersed in something, so I need to have things that would grab my mind, grab my eyes, grab my ear. So that's what I was trying to do with Catwoman, with everything, with the color, with the camera movement, with Halle, how he shot her to have her beautiful, to really take the mind of people.
That makes sense. And, I was watching this yesterday just to kind of get it fresh in my mind. And, going back to some of those quick cuts, some of them feel like they're there for like half a second. And it's like, close up, medium shot, a couple close ups, and it just flies through depending on the scene you're watching. And it is that immersion and almost like an overwhelming of the senses there with, the high color contrast and, how fast everything moves. And so it is fascinating to hear from your perspective that was trying to capture that feel of like opening a comic book and going through panel by panel, and these things are kind of flying at you at certain sequences, and obviously where it needs to be appropriately slowed down and pause on something, it's there. But was something interesting that I noticed, and I was thinking about it in contrast of like other superhero films that came out roughly around the same time, in the early to mid 2000s ballpark, and so something that really jumped out at me.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But now, I mean, the trend is followed, because now all these movies are really snap, 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 goes very fast, and the visual effects will zoom, zoom, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
even faster than what I did in Catwoman. So the trend was there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I did want to touch on too is the character of Patience Phillips, who becomes Catwoman in the film for people who are listening who haven't watched it yet. What was the thought process behind creating a whole new character identity separate from the whole Selina Kyle Catwoman persona?
So the whole thought process to really was to find a character that people can identify themselves. Selina Kyle was really in the 40s, 50s, and that was the genesis of the comic book. And so the idea of starting something new, something fresh, was to take a character that we might know, somebody in our world with flaws, with talent, with everything that define a person, a character, that the girl, the women, the boys, whoever wants to connect to, has enough grasp to really get into the character, because the character has two aspects. Patience Phillips is Patience Phillips, this woman who has this problem of being of not confident and all that, and on the other hand, she becomes a cat with, and also what is very different from the original Catwoman with Selina Kyle. Selina Kyle, when she's a Catwoman, she's not a cat. She is a woman who has some cat behavior, but she has nothing, a performance or ability of a cat. Where here it was the opposite. It was to give to the Patience Phillips character, suddenly she has the cat's ability. She can jump, she can smell, she can see, and so she can experience a different thing. So to me, that was also another very important thing of the comic book thing. So my favorite character back then when I was a kid was Superman. And I love Superman because he was Superman, super. He could fly, he could see through things. And that really transported me because I wanted to be that guy. I really want to fly. And to me, it's the ultimate superhero. And I like Batman, but Batman is gadget and all that stuff. It's kind of easy. Where Superman, no. I mean, you have it in you. And so that was, of course, with Catwoman is very different. But to me, what I liked is to have this person who like Clark Kent, who has this thing in a normal life. I mean, she's a normal person, and then when she's Catwoman, then she has this superhero abilities. And to me, that's really fun. That's what I like.
Okay, that's cool. I feel like throughout the film, though, there were some references or kind of nods to previous Catwoman incarnations. And I think specifically, and this could be because the press release that I was reading before mentioned Eartha Kitt, but in Patient Phillips' first outing as Catwoman, I guess you could say, when she finds her mask and she like busts up those thieves in the jewelry heist, that outfit to me looked like it was a little Eartha Kitt inspired because it's before she had her full, Catwoman garb that everybody knows from the movie. Was that kind of the intention there, or?
Yeah, loosely. I mean, of course, I love the character Eartha Kitt made. I mean, it was so funny.
Yeah.
And that you have, of course, you can't be not inspired by her.
Yeah.
She was such a powerful Catwoman that you can't not be inspired by her. So even it's unconscious or a little bit conscious, yes, she's around.
Yeah. Yeah, Eartha Kitt was the epitome of cool there for a while, I feel.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about the suit, because it is a really unique suit. It's pretty stylish. It's pretty cool. Years later, even I think it's like a really, great looking outfit. What were your inspirations and design for that suit? Like, were there pieces from things you took that you were inspired by and kind of, when you're talking to the costume designers and everything, whip this up as a team or?
Yeah, so of course it was a big teamwork, but when of course the studio asked me, how I would see the costume, and my first word was skin. I wanted to see skin. And the opposition of the other Catwoman outfit, where she's completely completely covered by the costume. I really want to have this character who's hybrid and who's not hiding completely behind the costume, and to have this organic feeling of you see the person, you see the animal inside, and you have, of course, she can be naked. And you have the leather that's complete the costume and give a direction. But yeah, to me that was to make something unusual and organic. And skin to me was really very important because there's somebody behind. I mean, it's the character is hybrid, so the skin is as far as you can go to a human person. That's what we say naked. I mean, you can't go more than naked. So the skin is the further you can go to see somebody. And to me, to have this thing and to have this hybrid, you hide something, but you show something. To me, that's the hide and show. That's really interesting with the costume.
Kind of plays off of the duality of having the two identities, the Patient Phillips and the Catwoman there, that, the hybrid that you're talking about, the show and not show, I mean.
Yeah, so I mean that's to me that the fascinating part is the versatility and the hybrid thing. Like a cat is so deep. A cat is an animal who has such a soul. So the hybrid to me is really merging two souls. You have a human soul and this cat soul. And cat, of course, we went through the movie. It's a very ancient, thing, and beliefs of the gods, the cat god and everything. So it's really this. To me, the hybrid is we are hybrid. We are, depending on your belief, half god, half human. So we are hybrid. So the playing with this character hybrid is playing with human nature.
It's really interesting. And actually, the way you put it is kind of poetic and beautiful in its own way.
Thank you.
And you touch on the ancient aspect of the cats and everything. That leads me to a question I had is where did the inspiration to tie Patience Phillips to the goddess Bast come from?
We were looking for cats, and we so the design of the cat was the Mao, the Egyptian Mao, to have visually something that could be beautiful. And then when we start to think, because we had this Egyptian cat as a startup, then we went into the mythology and tried to find this Bast, a goddess, and all that. So it really came from the cat himself. But the funny thing is, the cat, like in the movie, the cat drove us somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was really because it was my choice to keep to take the Mao, because I suppose it's just beautiful. I mean, the line of the body structure and the way the pattern was beautiful. So it's you don't pick a cat picks you. That's how it works.
That's very true. That's how we got our cat here. We found him years ago outside, and he's been here ever since. So,
exactly.
last question I wanted to hit on with the character and the idea of Catwoman. Then we'll move into filmmaking and style and technique a little more so. But I read a quote of yours. I can't remember where I read it, but it said, when you look at the differences between the comic book Catwoman and the TV or the movie Catwoman, they're all different, but there's a feeling that they are all Catwoman. And I wanted to follow up on that and ask, what are the traits you think connect all Catwomen, other than, the obvious that they all bear the moniker and there's a little bit of thievery and sneaking around involved?
Yeah, it's a sensibility. It's a sense. First, a cat is very feminine. A cat is really feminine in a sense. Is can be feral. So you feel that a cat can kill you. And actually, a cat is the only animal beside human who can kill just for fun, for pleasure, and is very, very loving. So you have this diversity between love and extreme behavior.
It's really well put. That makes sense. Jumping into filmmaking, I had one general question and then, get into the style. But with the MCU as big as it is right now, and then you have, DC Studios kind of relaunching and taking over new reins on their whole superhero genre, do you feel like it was more fluid or easier to take characters in unique and new directions like 20 years ago? Or is it easier now to make superhero films and really kind of break the mold of what people, think those films are?
I think it was easier back then because there was less, so it was easier to identify something and to make it special. Where here, I think it's more difficult because now everything is merging, everything is getting together, merge, and it's harder to have one character that stand out and it's really unique and different, because there was so many mixing between together. But there's nothing wrong in that. It's just different. Again, I will go again with cat, because the whole thing is about Catwoman and cat. The cat thing, I just discovered that recently, is it's really hard to find through DNA the exact origin of a cat, because there's so many mix between cats since thousands of years. The cat hasn't been bred like dogs. Dogs have been bred because dog are workers for us. They're hunting, they guard or whatever, but dog have been bred in a very specific way. Where cats, we start to breed cats now because people like to have like the ragdoll or whatever type of cat, but that are recent breeds. But if you look at a cat, I mean, it's a mix of thousands of different things, but they still are very different. So it's to have to have a multiple sources and to try to bring something new. It's not easier, but it's very interesting because your playground is bigger. I'll put together the playground. Back then was easier because you have less things. So pick something that was remarkable was easier. Well, now the playground is populated by thousands of things. So in order to make something that's stand out is more complicated, but maybe more fascinating because you can really have to go deeper. You have to dig deeper and deeper to bring something strong and interesting enough to be something.
It's kind of like a give and take there. You had less, but there was so much more freedom. But then now there is that, like you said, that vast treasure trove you can access, but mining what you're looking for might be more difficult.
Yeah, but then so you have to be more precise to what you want, and so you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper to extract the gem, the thing that is wow, that's the this diamond.
So I know we talked about your motivations and inspirations for the look and feel of a Catwoman. But one of the elements that really stood out to me outside of the fast cuts I mentioned earlier when I was rewatching this was the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it could be the modern TVs, but the lighting is really bright and a lot of the colors really pop, as you're watching it. It's something that I was taken in by and struck by. And in a lot of scenes of the film, it almost feels like there's a soft focus glow throughout much of it. So is this, kind of the result of the digital style you brought to the table? And if so, could you elaborate on how you created that look?
Yeah, of course. It's really so. First, the movie was shot on film, but then we didn't have any as many digital cameras, so it was shot on film. And then I really wanted to have this post process in digital in post production to enhance the color, to make it. Of course, first the lights. So I really worked closely with Thierry Arbogast, who was the DP, and works with Luc Besson before, and he's a very big DP. And the whole thing was to have everything popping. The difficulty, if everything pops, then you blinder. You don't want that too much. So it was really a work with the art departments and with the DP to play with that, to play with the color, to decide. Okay, we want to play with this type of contrast, this type of color, to make it really poppy. I wanted to sing to pop and to be like a comic book. It's a comic book. Of course you can have a black and white comic book, whatever, but every choice of the color is very specific. Everything is like a very specific, very precise, and that's what I wanted with the visual, fast but very precise, and bright, and so which was kind of the opposite of Gotham City. I mean, all the Batman universe is very dark, very like a kind of dull, kind of it's beautiful too. I mean, I love it, but I wanted to go away from that and way away. I mean, if we're not in Gotham City, then we are somewhere else.
That makes sense, and it's 20 years later, it looks like I was mentioning the colors and the lighting just really stood out to me. It's beautiful. I wouldn't have thought it was made 20 years ago, looking at the colors and how they pop and everything. So, but I get what you're saying too with Gotham City as a contrast, because a lot of billowing smoke and Gothic architecture and everything, and different vibe.
Yeah. And and I can play with two vibes. The thing is, my French movie Vidocq was really the opposite. It was dark, of course, high in color, but dark more in the Gotham world. I didn't have any impression with Gotham City, but if you look at the two movies are very different. And really on Catwoman, I really focused on it has to be bright, poppy, and we have this cat, and the world has to be a playground for this cat, and he has to enjoy it. Like a cat like colors. A cat, is happy with the happy world. So that was one of the really. I really all my thought was turned around cats. Okay, what is a cat? And when I was in pre-production, I really saw a lot of documentary about cats. I read a lot of things about cats. I work with a storyboard artist to define how a human body can move like a cat. I did some simulations, so I was really obsessed with a cat at any level, what a cat can see, can feel, and to really put us as a film viewer in that position. Okay, how can that be a cat? Of course, it's nothing scientific. We can apply or I wanted to know. It was much more of a thing eye candy. When you see a cat looking around, it's like the whole world is an eye candy. My cat is whatever you do, the cat is looking at me and try to understand or to look at me and doing things. So it's really like the whole world is a toy store.
Makes sense. So it's an artistic statement. It's kind of funny too. We have in a local theater near me, once a year they do a cat video fest. I feel like Catwoman should be incorporated into it.
Yeah.
Are there any specific technologies or processes you had to create for the film?
I mean, not specific technology, but I try to use a lot of technology. For instance, the Catwoman, the digital Catwoman, was made by the studio. I mean, the VFX studio called Escape, and that was the people who did the Matrix. So we of course, I know the thing's not perfect, but that's the best we could do back then. It was really the thing was to take the best people in every field. And so that was the guy who did the Catwoman as a digital double. And then for the cat, we used this studio called Tippett Studio. And Tippett was really the best guy to do animals. And he did a long career of doing animals in movies and TV shows and all that. And they really know what a cat is, how they studies the movement and everything. So I try to use everything that was, the most advanced in every aspect of technology. Like for the color timing, I use the latest, software we had, the best guy in town to really play with the color, knowing, what's translate from the computer to the screen. So it was really trying to reproduce what I had in mind onto the screen. That was my main focus, and use anything possible to do that.
Fascinating. And you said Tippett Studio. That wouldn't be related to Phil Tippett's, would it? Or
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I was gonna say, I recognize the name. That's a big name there.
Yeah. He's an icon. He's a legend.
Yeah. That's really cool. We talked a lot about the style and the filmmaking, a lot of the choices, but are there any elements that we haven't talked about that you want, viewers, whether they're revisiting the film and rewatching it or discovering for the first time, is there anything you want them to notice or pay attention to?
Not in particular. It's really the thing is to enjoy the ride. I mean, the thing is to from the first image to just let go and enjoy the ride. And you can enjoy the ride in different ways. You can watch a movie different time. It's a journey. To me, it's a really a visual a journey.
Do you have any favorite sequences in the film, like personal favorites, moments that you look back on as like this is the sequence I love the most?
I think the sequence I love the most is I actually have two sequences I love for different reasons. The first for the all fun is the jewelry store. Mm-hmm. The jewelry store was really fun to shoot, to cut, and to have a mix of CG character, of capoeira, and all that. So it was really like the scene I really played the most. I had the most fun to play, to be like funny when she surf on the body of the guy. So it was really the most funny scene to me to make. And the other one I like very much is the one that happened in the alley, and when she takes the guy who is the bodyguard of and she kicks his ass, in the alleyway. And I love this scene because it's kind of feral, and also it's the first scene I shot. It's the first action scene I saw with Halle and on this movie. So I really pay a lot of, to me it was not a hit or miss because I knew what I was doing, but I was anxious to see the first cut because I had a precise idea of how it should look like. And so we shot the scene very fast, so one day, or maybe not even one day, half a day. And there's a lot of little humor in it, and I want to make sure that it translated at the end. And the scene looked like exactly what I wanted. So there's two scenes for me as the fun scenes.
That's awesome. I wanted to touch on your career for a little bit. You've worn many hats in the storytelling cinematic world. I've seen that you've worked in editing, software and graphic design, visual effects, producing, directing, which is what we're talking about now. You're also a self-taught filmmaker. How do you feel all this has informed your approach as a creator and storyteller?
My belief is, to be a director, you have to know everything. And you have to. That's where one of my mentor, when I was a young apprentice, told me that I mean, if you want to be a film director, you have to be able to do everything. And that's what I did. Actually, I really practice every. I mean, maybe not. The only thing I didn't do is makeup, hair makeup. I never tried to do hair makeup, but everything else I did: camera, light, sound, grip, electrician, you name it. Because to me, it was very important to know, if you do something, you have to know from inside. And then same with the rest, from a software designer. I mean, at some point in my early day in my digital career, I knew that, if you want to go further, you have to develop your own tools. And that's what I did in early 90s. We had, because the tools available were not powerful enough. So I had to think, how can I get tools for visual effects that will help me? So the only way is to write them. So I didn't code myself, but I had a bunch of engineers to write the software for me. And same with graphic design, for everything. Everything is related to what I need. And even now, I need to learn everything. Whatever it's like. For instance, I started to deal with virtual reality, and then I had to learn the Unreal Engine to understand how it works and why, and I had to put my hands under the hood. So that's how I am, and I need to have a really grasp on everything. And I think that's, to be a director, you need to not to be good at everything, but at least to know when to have tried it, to know from inside how it is, and it's, if you want to expand something, you need what's possible, what's not. That's my take on that. But I respect directors who don't need that. I mean, who are different. I'm not saying as a director you have to do that, and you have to do.
Right.
Because when I worked in visual effects, so I was with directors, and you have directors who didn't care about the visual. I mean, it's so they hire the best DP possible. The DP will take care of the visual, and the guy didn't barely take care of the shot list. Really, the DP was doing everything, and his thing was actors. He just wanted to focus on actors. He wanted to see the actors and talk to the actors. The rest, he wanted to the crew to take care of, and I respect that. And the guy I'm talking about, he was the biggest old French director, and that's how he worked. And he was the most successful director France has ever had. So it's really, I mean, director it depends on you. But the thing is, you have to go all the way. If you are like this guy, just focus on actor, just focus on the actor, and surround yourself by people who help you. If you want to know everything, then you have to know everything, which is more my position.
Well, that makes sense. And it kind of feels in a way, it's almost like, I mean, knowing that it helps you manage time and, getting everything done and completed in a organized manner and really knowing up front what the limitations are, if there are any.
Yeah, because on set you have 10 hours and not more, or you need to know what you want at the end and how to get to it. And if something, of course, nothing happened like planned, so you have to always to rethink and to do things, to rethink this thing differently to accommodate the moment. So your mind has to always be in motion, and you have to know everything. Okay, didn't work. The sun is gone now, so I mean, there's always something that is going wrong, and you have to adapt and take the best you can and to make something better. And sometimes an accident can bring you something unexpected that you've never thought before, and is amazing. So you have to be open to that too. I mean, and not be too obsessive. That sometimes the accident will give you something incredible. So you have to be open to anything that happens around you when you're directing. That's my thing.
I feel like my favorite example of the accident working out in favor is Jaws. I always think back to that when I hear that, where the shark wasn't working.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The perfect example. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then it become a thing. And
I see, since Catwoman, you've produced quite a number of films and you're currently involved in VR, which I'm really fascinated by. Can you tell us anything about your latest projects or things you have going on?
Yeah, so VR to me was really a passage. I discovered VR a few years ago. I mean, a few years ago, yeah, 6, 7 years ago, when it was really the beginning. Not the beginning because VR is old, but the very very rebirth of VR. And what really fascinated me back then was the immersive power of VR. Even though this Oculus Quest, the quality was very limited. It was really like a low quality. But when you were under the hood, suddenly your brain, didn't bother about quality. Just your brain took for granted whatever you gave it to the brain, and you were in this world, this thing. And I was fascinated by that. And I was thinking, can we adapt that for movies? Can we tell a story through VR? And then I started to work on that and to really find out that no, it doesn't work. I mean, a story is told through a frame. A story is one perspective told. So on the VR is the opposite. The VR to use VR, it's 360. So it doesn't fit. So it will fit one day when we will be able to have virtual storytelling, interactive. Quite soon, because now when you see the AI and how AI is able to generate images in real time, almost in real time. So I mean, the time for have a complete storytelling that evolves in real time in VR is coming. Maybe not this year, but maybe in the next 5 years. I don't want to put time because it will go faster than we think, but it will come. And so, I really was fascinated by this immersive stuff. Then I've been practicing meditation for years, and I know it's for people who are not practicing, it's not easy because practicing meditation is really dedication. You have to do it every day. You have to, and meditation is something that that doesn't show right away the advantage. You have to meditate for a certain time before you can feel the benefit. But I think that people need to have this kind of escape and to free your mind. So I thought that VR could help for that, and I developed a software in France to help people meditate. It's a thing that takes you with sound, with visual, that helps you to let go of your day. So that's something that was very fascinating to me. But yeah, it's something on the side. Today, my future is really more into movies, and 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 entertaining people, definitely. Yeah.
Makes sense. Do you have any upcoming film projects in the works that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
really excited about?
yeah. So I have a few projects, TV series and feature film that are based on AI. Really, so to me, it's a fact. Of course, everybody talks about AI, but it's how to see the future. We know that the future is going faster than we ever thought. But dealing with this AI thing on subjects on the everyday subject is really interesting. So I can't say more because it's really in development. But to me, my fascination is around AI and this new thing that everybody is afraid or excited by, how we're going to deal with. And that to me, that's really the sky is the limit for that.
Definitely. I feel like that's the big topic is, yeah, how do we cope and coexist, or what does it even mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's and you can see that so from so many different angles, so many perspective aspect, and what the future, is that good, is that bad, how would we survive? Everything is on the table.
Before we end for our this episode, I wanted to ask you real quick about your piloting, because I saw that and I thought that was so fascinating that, not only are you a pilot, but you practice aerobatics and you're the owner of a Pitts biplane. So how long have you been a pilot and how did you get into it?
That's yeah, that's my other half of life. Yeah. So I've been flying for the last 30 years, and mostly aerobatic. And the thing is, yeah, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by airplane. I did model of airplane and all that, but I never met anybody who was a pilot. In my family, nobody flew. I mean, so there's no connection to any pilots. And also, everything I heard about piloting was you need to be like a Nobel Prize in science, in math or physics to fly a plane. So it was like the impossible thing. And one day, I had this friend who wanted to learn how to fly, and to me, do you want to go with me? And I say, no, it's impossible. I'm not smart enough for that. And he said, no, it's nothing. I mean, if to fly a plane, it's like driving a car, but with a third dimension. Anybody can fly. And I said, okay, let's give it a shot. Then I visited this aero club near Paris. I did my first check for first flight with an instructor, Cessna, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I really can fly. And then from that, I did my license, pilot license, and then I start to learn aerobatic. Same thing. One day, and I didn't like roller coasters. So it's not my thing at all. And one day on the field, this guy came with a small aerobatic plane and the guy was doing demos and asked me, do we want to try it? I said, yes, why not? And I tried. The guy did a roll, a loop, and right away, same thing. Right away, I said, that's for me. And then I learned to fly aerobatic. I bought my first biplane because I love biplane for that, and that's my story. And the thing with flying, I'm not a daredevil. The thing is, I like to be safe. I like to be to know what I'm doing and to be in control. And flying aerobatic is like a dream. I mean, you're like a bird, uh, um, going upside down, do whatever you want at the moment you want. Of course, it's something you learn, but it's not impossible. It's kind of not that difficult. And of course, you have body stuff you need to get used to the G forces and so on. But if you practice enough, it's really rewarding. It's almost like a meditating, because and suddenly, I mean, not every day, because like everything, someday you fly like shit. Someday it's amazing, and but when it's amazing, the feeling I have is the wings are really in my body. The wings are coming from my body side, and I am the plane. I mean, I'm one with the plane, and I don't even do anything I think, and the plane does what I think. So that's a nirvana, but it happens once in a while,
Yeah.
not every day, unfortunately. Yeah. But it is kind of of transcendence. That's beautiful.
It is, and that's amazing. And to quote the old Superman tagline, to tie it back to Superman, you'll believe a man can fly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why there's no random thing. That's why Superman was my hero when I was a kid. To me, flying was the thing.
Yeah, everything ties together. Well, thank you, Pitof, for your time, for joining me on the Batman Universe podcast. For our listeners who want to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Catwoman, the film is available to rent or own on Amazon Prime and all other major platforms. We will have a link below. For everything else Batman and Catwoman related, you can check out the batmanuniverse.net for reviews, movie news, podcasts like this one, and more. And if you like these episodes, please subscribe, rate, and share. And if you want to hear more from yours truly, you can find me on threads at writer_Scott. Thanks for listening.